And this is where we bring in our friend Chris Doran, among other things, to discuss the calmness of the average Celtic fan when it comes to 1 day and 3 days having a coach. Morning, sir. Welcome back. Good to see you, my friend.
John, good to see you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, I do want to get into some incredibly insightful topics that I know that a lot of folks want to get into, like Indiana football. I have to ask about Indiana football. We got to get into that in a second because that was from the weekend too. I led into your segment this morning by playing a little bit of the post-match 1v1 that Wilfried had with Sky Scotland. And I was trying to break down to folks to anticipate the slings and arrows that are going to be headed Wilfried Nancy's way. Doesn't matter if he's been there 3 days, doesn't matter if he's been there 3 weeks, months, or years. The extremes of the Celtic fan, we're going to catch it full while we're keeping an eye on Wilfried Nancy. And I love the hire, but I'm just it's going to drive everybody crazy sitting there and looking at the extremes of this thing, even after 3 days of work. And I'm sure everybody's going, this was such a bad idea. What are we doing? That kind of calmness that's always attached to these kinds of things.
Yeah, I think there's a sense of urgency from the Celtic fan base, and I understand that. I think they've been through a lot more unrelated to the new coach.
Oh, yeah.
That perhaps is sort of bleeding over into the experience of welcoming a new gaffer to the sidelines, as they'd say over there. So that has to be considered. But I think you put the finger on exactly what the bigger issue is, and the passion and expectation from the supporters base is extraordinary, albeit some would argue a bit unrealistic, and I think requires a considerable amount of patience when you're even just having the conversation about a new coach. So, we wish Wilfried all the best. I think there was an expectation, though a lot of people thought it would be later, that Wilfried at some point was going to take a jump. And as we've come to find out, for especially some of the members of his staff, but also for him, Celtic has been a club that he has kept an eye on over a long period of time. And for this opportunity to come up is sort of storybook for his career. So good for them.
No doubt. And once again, I'm intrigued. I want him to go over there and just take the league by storm and grab it by the scruff of the neck and sit there. And we can all sit here on this side of the Atlantic and sit there and go, see?
Yeah.
This is the guy. This is what you're getting. But I don't know if folks are going to be that patient. That's just the thing that always gets to me when we talk about stuff on the other side of the Atlantic.
Right.
Because of Wilfried heading to Celtic, that means that Columbus is now chasing after their own new gaffer. And I know that it is supposed to be a worldwide search and all this kind of stuff. I guess when you look at it right now, where is the process? You've got to rush, but you can't be quick, I guess, to paraphrase John Wooden, yeah?
Yeah. I don't think it's unfair to assume that the club has had a short list for some time. In fact, Issa Tall, in a conversation with him, our general manager, not too long ago, a week and a half ago, indicated that it's been an 8-month process for finding a replacement. And really what he means by that is they walked into a room, the decision makers, that is, and they said, all right, who are the top 20? And that's probably where they started. And then they weeded some of those names out, and they got some calls from people that they didn't expect would be available. And now you've got a top 15, a top 12. And then you start making that whittled down process a little more refined. You get the notice that the manager's leaving, and now you have to find your top 8 and start talking real hard about numbers and expectations. So I feel really confident that, the club was not taken by surprise by this at all. Would they have liked it to have, maybe happened in the summer of next year? Sure. But I think this is an ideal situation for the club in terms of finding candidates. I got confirmation from the general manager that they are hearing from agents, not from individuals, but from agents of individuals who are under contract with other clubs.
Whoa.
And so that becomes a little bit of a difficult landscape to navigate at some point. But I think ownership is committed to continuing what this club is all about in the DNA of the club is an attacking, entertaining style of soccer that will continue. And if you're a coach who says, you know, I love playing a true four in the back and my wingers stay home and we don't give up any goals, and if we get one, we're fine, you're probably not going to get the second interview with this club.
Yeah.
I don't know how many clubs you're going to get a second interview with unless you're in Germany, but that's probably not going to be a second interview callback.
I just have this vision of Sam Allardyce sending his CV to Isetal all of a sudden. It's just like, oh, you got an opening. Hey, let's figure it out. You know,
Yeah.
When the job came open, we were discussing things down here, and one of the names that was started by Jason, and we're sitting there going, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. Yes, hydration is absolutely proper. Yes, we need to do that. Laurent Courtois came across our bow as an idea, and I know that folks might get wrapped up in the failures of jobs past, but we thought that because of that DNA that you're looking for and the successes that he had with Crew 2, that might be somebody that would be toward the front of the line.
Well, first of all, I would clarify that when you use the word failure and Laurent Courtois in the same sentence, you are clearly referring to the Montreal franchise and not to Laurent Courtois himself. Okay. That said, Laurent is thought of very highly in the Columbus market, and I do believe, given his success with Crew 2 and what he was trying to achieve in Montreal, and to some degree was able to take some early and small steps with that group, would probably be a reasonable candidate for this position. There are at least two other individuals within the club who I think also qualify because of their history with the Columbus Crew. Their understanding of the way the team plays and their understanding of the roster would still be very good candidates. So you have three what I would consider in-house candidates right off the bat, which is a really great place to be. You certainly don't want to be hiring in desperation, but if it ever got to that point where, you know, the guys report tomorrow and we still don't have a candidate, you might be able to close the deal for a short period of time with one of those gentlemen. So yeah, I think Courtois is absolutely a possibility. He won MLS Next Pro Cup here in Columbus with the inaugural season of MLS Next Pro, and made it to the final in the second year, you know, with a relatively new group of players. So he knows what he's doing, and within the Crew desire to play, he knows exactly how to make it happen. So yeah, he'd be a reasonable candidate. You know, I think the question becomes more so the roster that's currently in place is a roster that was built with the assumption that, you know, we got Wilfried Nancy probably 4 or 5 years. Let's see if we can continue to keep this talent overlapped and everything. The one thing that we weren't anticipating was Darlington Nagbe retiring, and I'm sure you'll probably want to talk to that. But you take the Darlington Nagbe story out, you still have a core group of championship caliber players who are coming back, and the addition of Wessam Abu Ali, who was only able to play a handful of games in the latter part of the season. So do you need a more veteran coach, someone who knows how to handle these international influences in a locker room? And is Laurent equipped to do that? Maybe he is, you know, maybe he is. I think the conversations with candidates will be very interesting no matter who they are.
Yeah, and you mentioned veteran coaches in this league, and the first name that popped into my head was Peter Vermees, and I'm like,
I know. I know.
I'm like, okay, dude's on the beach, and you know, but my larger question would be, with someone like a Peter Vermees, would he? I mean, he has been the Bill Parcells type. You know, he wants to be in the kitchen, he wants to buy the groceries, he wants to make the meal, and he wants to serve it. I don't know if Columbus would be in a situation where they would want to give the entire kitchen to Peter, or just like, it's like, nah, fam, you're just here to sit there and you know, you're here to help us make the meal. And then, you know, Graham Ramsey's going to sit there and he's going to go, this is awful, you know, one of those kind of things. Would Peter want to dial it back to just one role on the business card?
Yeah, I don't know if he would or not. I don't see the club doing that.
Yeah.
I don't see that. The club doesn't need that. The academy is in really good hands. The second team's in really good hands. There's a reason for that, because the club is one club in the sense that we have this. Talent comes and goes in players, coaches, administrators, leaders, and and what remains the same is the vision that the ownership group has got, and that is that we're going to be very true to our principles. Our core is going to be most important. The facilities have been expanded. I mean, the investment from ownership for the academy right now, John, has been incredible, and the market is supporting the teams. So I don't think that it behooves the club to find somebody who wants to have, as you say, the hands on every plate and every serving glass and piece of silverware in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Does that person influence any of it? Sure. They can come in and request, if you want to stick with the metaphor, they can come in and request something for dinner, but if they get a couple of sides that they don't like, then they're going to have to sit and eat it. Now I'm hungry for more breakfast. So anyway, that's what I would say. I would say, bring someone in who's got the background and understands and embraces the way the club operates as one club, from the academy all the way to the first team.
Chris Doran, longtime voice of the Columbus Crew, hanging out with us as we kind of go out of 25, go into 26, and the timeliness factor of Wilfried Nancy in his first match was what triggered in my brain reaching out to Chris and kind of kicking things off here. All right, let's talk Darlington Nagbe and our buddy Nagbe here. One of the quietest dudes ever. It's like, oh yeah, I'm done. It's just like no runway, at least publicly, but that's just not how he operates. And he's like, yeah, end of the season, I'm done. How much of a surprise was it?
I think to the players closest to him, probably not a massive surprise. And I'm talking about Evan Bush, our reserve goalkeeper, but of course a longtime starter for Montreal. Talking about Steven Moreira, who is international for Cape Verde, has won an MLS Cup here. Couple of guys who are still in the league, Teal Bunbury, who was with him at Akron. Those were phone calls that he made early on. And I don't think those phone calls lasted too long until they got to, what are you going to do next? And then, Darlington probably didn't have much in the way of an answer, but he just knew that, this routine of missing my kids' birthdays, this routine of being away from home for 2 or 3 days at a time, and in some cases longer than that, has gotten to be too much. His kids are very much involved. His wife, of course, Felicia, as you know, having covered him when he played in Atlanta, very much involved in community and in activities. They are not sitting at home playing video games. These people are wonderfully participatory in their entire community. It's one of the reasons why the league hates to lose a guy like that, is because he's been honored so many times as being the great humanitarian that he is. And the relationship with Nationwide and Nationwide Children's Hospital in town has just been, a longstanding, I think, model for what professional athletes can do with their local organizations. So when we got the word that he was leaving, it was kind of like, well, he's got that one option year. Why doesn't he just let the club bring him back one more year, make $1 million and leave it at that? But no, he said no. That was it. And I've been told by a number of players that once a player makes a commitment to that decision, they rarely come back. I think Michael Jordan is probably the only one who said, I'm going to come back. But he didn't really retire from basketball, in the sense that he went to baseball and then came back after baseball didn't work out so well.
Yeah, and then had issues hitting a curveball in Birmingham, and it's just, hey, I can hit that. Give me a fastball, I can be a pull hitter in Birmingham, but that's really
yeah.
And then hit 230 or whatever in Birmingham. It's like, no, maybe I need to kind of go back to basketball.
Yeah.
So then when you look at the profiles of contracts and things like that, and trying to figure out the off season and who's in, who's out. You add Darlington to the outs, and you sit there and you look at the roster profile. I'm sitting here and staring at it real quick. let's see. Nagbe had an option year. Camacho did not have an option year. His contract was over. Derek Jones has an option year. Lapalainen had an option year going in. Amar Sadic had an option year going in. Evan Bush was supplemental. He was out of contract. So there were some decisions that needed to be made with supplementals and rosters. Where do things currently stand with the outs and decisions that have to go?
Well, a lot of those decisions have already been made. I don't think Lassi was brought back. I don't have the form in front of me, but Lassi's option to come back was not exercised. They're still talking, I think, to Rudy Camacho and still talking to Evan Bush. And we are of the assumption that Evan will be back for another year to play.
Right.
We had 5 goalkeepers on our roster this past year. Didn't need all 5. But excuse me, I think we'll have 4 on the sheet going into the season. Evan Bush clearly has, if not a Hollywood career in front of him, but Evan Bush has got a coaching career in front of him, and he recognizes that his role is as much a backup as it is a mentor to young goalkeepers like Patrick Schulte, who hopefully plays for the men's national team next summer, and Nico Hagen, who plays for Guatemala. So Evan Bush is a critical part of the puzzle there. It's really it's the core coming back. I mean, there was some concern that Steven Moreira might be declining the option to come back, but Moreira will be back, and then you got Sean Zawadzki, who maybe with the right center back becomes more the midfielder that we had all hoped and thought that he would be when Aidan Morris left.
Yeah.
You have Daniel Gazdag, who's still trying to kind of find his way. Now he'll be able to find his way in a new system, maybe some abbreviated or homogenized system with what he was playing versus what could be played, and give him more success. He's a scoring leader out of Philadelphia, and he struggled within Wilfried Nancy's system. And I felt bad for him because he's a good player, he's a good man, and he's a committed athlete. So, you've got Gazdag, Rossi, and Wessam Abu Ali as your designated players. And Hugo Picard is a U22 initiative. Andres Herrera has been secured for another year on loan from Argentina. So it's a really great looking squad. Now, Max Arfston may or may not leave. I hope he doesn't. I don't think he should. There has been some interest from other countries for Max. The winger had a career year this year. The one thing I'd say about Max is he's just performed so well for the men's national team. I think it would be in his best interest to be in the States for the next 8 months, get through the World Cup, and if Europe calls, go ahead and take that call. But I think just stay stateside until the World Cup is over.
It's good to have these kinds of discussions about American players where you have leagues on the other sides of oceans knocking on doors, wanting players in Major League Soccer here in Major League 2.5, 3.0. And I think the evolution of someone like a Max Arfston, what's it been like to see his game evolve and mature to where he is the integral part that he was with Crew, but now also being a part of things on the national team?
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, if you go on social media, it can be a little bit of a downer. I don't think that there are as many supporters for Max overall in the men's national team social media sphere, but you take that with a grain of salt. They all think they know something. We know what Max can do. We know how dangerous he is. We know what a great talent he has become in the last he came in 2023. 2023. So it's only been 3 years. He's phenomenal. He really is. And he's a great interview. And obviously Pochettino and his staff love him because of his versatility and the fact that he doesn't give up and he can put a full 90 in. So I think, obviously the joy here in Columbus to see him be so successful is overwhelming. And to see him succeed on the national stage as having logged the most assists all season long for the Red, White, and Blue is tremendous. He's a finalist for Young Men's Player of the Year with the men's national team. So, all those things are great. They look terrific for him. National stage, international stage next year. And then, probably a hop off to Europe. We would certainly understand that. And we would still love him when he comes back.
When it comes to the roster holes as you currently see them, how many of them do you feel will be filled by homegrowns getting more minutes and becoming more confident within the system and within the identity there in Columbus? And how much outside shopping do you think the front office is going to do?
That's a good question. I think the Crew leadership has always done a terrific job of balancing those two exercises, identifying talent from within, making sure that their timing in terms of their arrival to the first team is appropriate, and then rewarding them for the work that they put in on the first team level. When it comes to international talent, a really great scouting group throughout Europe and South America. And I think the priorities going into this offseason, well, we've been told as much from Issa Tall, the general manager. It's a center back type role. It's a midfielder type role and support up top. So that about fits with what we've been sort of, I won't say struggling with, because Sean Zawadzki's been more than efficient as a center back, but now that Nagbe's gone, to have that warrior in the midfield like a Sean Zawadzki would be ideal, I think, for the black and gold, and to bring in a bigger presence as a center back, I think, would be ideal as well.
Yeah, and that was kind of what I was alluding to, was the hashtag Nagbe replacement. Because we had that in Atlanta, is like, oh, well, so he's a Nagbe replacement. Well, no, not really. He might be a midfielder in name, but not a midfielder, a Nagbe-ish like in activity. And so that's kind of what folks have to kind of grasp when it comes to that.
Isn't that funny, John, how folks expect a like for like replacement, and you don't often get that.
Yeah, I mean unless everything is static, and that's the thing. It's not everything is static in a constantly changing environment. It's
right.
Like, I mean, look, you and I have been hydrating this morning with our various beverages, and just because we sit there and we have the beverage, you think that things are going to stay the same. No, it's not the same amount of liquid that's in the glass. We're going to sit there and we're going to hydrate with it. We're going to become caffeinated, but the amount of caffeine beverage decreases. It doesn't stay static. As much as we'd love for it to, it doesn't stay that way. Bless you.
Thank you.
No worries. Let's see. Indiana football. We got to get into this. Kurt Signetti don't take nothing from nobody. I think that if he could do it his way, he just like, I swear, when he was getting the questions about being the number 2 seed or whatever in the CFP, and he's kind of sitting there and he's looking at the microphone, he's like, boy, do I really have to stand here as we're going to break? I mean, I love what he's doing there.
He's really something. He's got quite the attitude. Do you, as a broadcaster, sort of say to yourself, I don't know if I could pull that off if I were him?
I know. I mean, I'd love to sit there and say that somebody gives me a question and I'd be kind of sitting there. I couldn't. As much as I'd like to be frank and honest, sometimes you're biting your tongue and the blood's coming out of the corner of your mouth, and you have to give the answer that you have to give instead of the answer that you want to give. Sometimes,
right?
Signetti, he's just like, nope. I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you what I think. Just make sure that you're prepared. That's the biggest thing. Just be prepared with your questions and have a backup, because he's like 7 seconds. Second question. Do I really have to be here? Third question, 30 seconds, and I'm gone.
What I love about it is when they do the pregame interview, sideline reporter will ask one question. He is partially turned away by the end of the sentence.
He's out.
Walking.
And that's why I'm like, I've had to deal with that before, where coaches would be like, I'll give you my response, like yes, no, maybe. It's an open-ended question that I give. It's not a closed-ended question. That's one of the first things that we always learn. Give an open-ended question. I give these coaches open-ended questions, and they're still like 7 seconds, and I'm out the door. You can see the contrails from these coaches at times. Signetti's willing, he's just out the door. Is Mendoza getting your Crooked Elbow Award in New York City?
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of college football. We live in the heart of Ohio State country.
Oh, yes.
And, love it. I just love the spirit for Ohio State football and athletics in general.
So then is Julian Sayin going to get it? Then I guess is what I should say.
Well, I would just say that I'm couching my answer. We are also, I'm a 30-year former resident in Bloomington, Indiana. So IU is, and a graduate. So IU is at the heart of who I root for. And I can tell you that watching the Big Ten championship game for my wife and I was just a really surreal experience, because we had both teams competing for the title. We understand the passion in our market for Ohio State football, and I wouldn't say that Julian Sain probably gets the Heisman. I would say Jeremiah Smith is an extraordinary athlete, and I'm a huge fan, having watched him the last couple of years. But Mendoza coming on the scene the way he has, and endearing himself the way he does to the camera, whether you like it or not, I think has played very, very well in his favor when it comes to deciding who takes that trophy.
Yeah, I mean, he cut the promo after the game, and everybody was sitting there going, "Yeah, that's about as babyface a promo as you can get." And I was waiting. It's like, okay, there's your quote, and there's your T-shirt from home field. Like, give it 35 seconds. What is next on the rundown for you? Do you actually get time to just kind of chill and take it easy for a little bit?
Not really. We're going to go ahead and monitor what comes from the Ohio Health Performance Center in the way of news. My thought was probably another 2 weeks, but I truly think that I think Isetal has been well ahead of this news that we had to put up with over the last couple of weeks, and I'm confident that before we get to let's say before we get to New Year's Day, we're gonna have a confirmation. But I truly think before Christmas there's going to be confirmation of a candidate.
No doubt about it. And it's going to be great to follow along with you. I can't thank you enough for dropping by and starting our education toward the 26th season with all of the topics that come through, and the education on Wilfried Nancy for the folks that may not get it. That's why I knocked on your door and I'm like, can you please help explain what's going on here?
John, you're terrific. I love your show, and thanks so much for having me, and Merry Christmas to you and the family.
Merry Christmas back at you, sir. We'll see you soon.